I don't think Florida State is a lock for the college football playoff, even if they're sitting there at 13-0. What truly matters when we're talking about these teams and what should be the separator as to determining why one team is better than the other? For me, the biggest separator, the resume factor, if you will, that matters the most is who you beat. Now, do we got to get Ric Flair out here? In order to beat the man, or in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. Terrible Ric Flair impersonation, but you get the point. To me, determining who an actual good team is, one of the 4 teams that should be able to compete for the college football playoff, I value the most who you beat. I am willing to overlook or forgive a loss, even if it's a bad loss, if you have some nice, impressive wins on your resume. I rather reward winning than reward, oh, well, they lost to this great team. They have no good wins, but look how close they played. You know, if you're Ohio State and you lose to Michigan, well, look how close they played Michigan. They lost by 3. What a quote-unquote great loss. I hate that term. Great loss, again, is just used when teams have nothing on their resume to show for. So they got to say, hey, look, we lost close. But if you are truly one of the 4 best teams we're talking about now, again, with 8 teams left, 3 weeks in the regular season, 8 teams trying to get to 4 spots, I think what separates these 4 teams is who has the best wins on their resume, which is why I continue to get frustrated, continue to not understand why Florida State continues to sit in the top 4. It makes no sense to me. If we're talking resume, if who you beat matters, how can you sit here with a straight face and tell me the Seminoles are right now a top 4 team? They are not. Honestly, Florida State right now is not a top 7 team in my opinion. I would put Alabama, I would put Oregon, and I would put Texas all above Florida State right now for various reasons. I am not someone that believes that being undefeated is a automatic qualifier, if you will. Means you are going to the college football playoff, lock it up. I think we got to look into those wins, look into who you're playing, look into how you are playing, and parse it out through there. I don't think being 13-0 should be, oh, you're in, boom, it's over, discussion ended. No. I could easily argue a team with 1 loss at 12-1 is better than a 13-0 team. And I think so far that is what we are seeing with Florida State. And that's why as you kind of look ahead here as we are getting really close to the finish line, it should not be a lock. To me, it's not a lock that Florida State will make the college football playoff even if they are 13-0. Again, for me, it's about who you beat. That is my biggest number 1 priority that I look for. Look at the resume, look at the wins. Okay, let's look at Florida State's resume. Who have they beaten? They have beaten, according to the latest committee's rankings, number 15 LSU. That is their best win. Number 15 LSU on a neutral field. I get it, they're preseason number 5, but look at those preseason rankings. I mean, USC was number 6 out of the rankings. Those preseason rankings are usually very flawed and usually, again, are rarely correct. So being preseason number 5 is cute when the season starts, but now you got to look at that win by Florida State over LSU as, well, yeah, you beat an average team, a top 15 team. Okay. That's about it. And that's all we're talking about right now. That is FSU's resume. A win over number 15 LSU, in which they really played great in the second half. They didn't have a great first half, but anyway, I digress. And probably Duke is their second best win, in which Riley Leonard went out of the game in the second half with the Dukies leading, sparking a second half comeback. But otherwise, there's not any impressive wins on the Seminoles' resume, and it's not like they are blowing teams out either. Close calls against Miami, against Pitt, against Boston College, against Clemson. They have not played anyone of real strength. And they have not looked impressive either along the way. Like, at least for Michigan, you want to argue up until the Penn State game last week, they haven't played anyone. True. But at least to their credit, they're blowing everybody out. They're not making it a game. They are showing you and letting everyone know, oh yeah, that's an inferior opponent. Because it's 35-0 at halftime. Michigan didn't play with their food the way Florida State has constantly. Now, they're getting away with it, but that should come back to bite them. Like, are we watching games and taking into consideration how teams look and who they play? Or are we just saying, no, they keep winning, it's all good? No. We got to parse these wins out here and say, yeah, Florida State won, but is a 24-7 win over Pitt when they just lost 58-7 the week before Notre Dame, is it that impressive? Is a Miami team that's reeling, playing their backup quarterback on the road in Tallahassee last week and only losing by 7, in which the game was a one-score game for basically the majority of it? Are we saying that that's an impressive win? No. And that's why, if you look ahead here, and I want to give one quick projection, there's a very realistic scenario. We are sitting here after conference championship weekend with the following results: 13-0 Michigan, 12-1 Oregon, 12-1 Texas, 12-1 Alabama, and 13-0 Florida State. Michigan Big Ten champ, Oregon Pac-12 champ, Texas Big 12 champ, or did I say Big 12 for Oregon? Sorry, Pac-12 for Oregon, Big 12 for Texas, Alabama obviously the SEC champ, and Florida State winning the ACC. Out of those 5 teams, Michigan, Oregon, Texas, Bama, Florida State, the team that's getting the boot for me is the Seminoles. They have the weakest resume, and by far against those other 4 teams, have the least impressive wins. And if you don't beat anyone, I really can't take you seriously. I can't reward you for being a top 4 team if the resume doesn't show it. And so that's why for me, when you kind of look at what matters here going forward, what matters to me is wins. I can overlook a loss. It's okay. I can overlook even some sloppy performances and wins if you stack 2, 3, 4 impressive wins on your resume throughout the season. Michigan can do that by beating Penn State and beating Ohio State. Oregon can do that by beating Utah on the road before early this season, and then getting revenge on Washington and beating a top 5 team in the Pac-12 title game. Texas went into Tuscaloosa earlier this season and beat Alabama. Bama, getting on a roll right now, would not only have a win over LSU, like Florida State, but also have a win over Georgia in the SEC title game on their resume as well. The more you look at it, the more I just can't comprehend a Florida State team, even at 13-0, making the college football playoff, because I don't think their resume is strong enough. And I would put Oregon in above them. I'd put Texas in above them. I'd put Alabama in above them. I would even consider looking at an 11-1 Ohio State if they lose to Michigan with their wins this year over Penn State and Notre Dame. I would consider a Washington team that if they're sitting there at 12-1 with a loss to Oregon in the Pac-12 title game, but already having a win over them earlier this season, I would consider them over Florida State. The Seminoles have not impressed me. And being 13-0 is not an automatic qualifier to making the playoff.